Hi, my name is Maddie and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about why I decided to stop wearing makeup. This is going to be part 1 of this series. I will be posting a part 2 and possibly a part 3, so stay tuned for that. If you're new to my channel, I am a Christian. I became a Christian at about the age of 15. I had an encounter with God that completely changed my life. This is a big part of the reason that I decided to stop wearing makeup. Since I was about 12 years old, I have been obsessed with beauty and cosmetics. Naturally, I am more on the creative side, so discovering and practicing makeup was a huge creative outlet to me. I enjoyed it, I thought it was fun. At this age, I was also really insecure about the way I looked, and makeup changed that. Makeup made me feel beautiful. It made me feel confident, and I also noticed a considerable difference in the way that other people treated me and in the level of interest that other people had in me. So fast forward to when I am 15, I was at this worship night, and out of nowhere, the presence of God just overtakes me. It was like this supernatural peace that I have never experienced in my life. And this feeling was completely new for me. I was never somebody who had internal peace. So in this moment, as I'm like feeling God's presence, I cannot stop crying, and I tell the people that I'm with that I want to give my life to God. I just had this feeling of just wanting to surrender, which I have never had before. And so they walked me through the salvation prayer, and a few months later I got baptized. My life has never been the same. It was the best thing to ever happen to me. So back to makeup. After I gave my life to God, every time I would do my makeup, it was like something about it just didn't sit right, and I couldn't put my finger on it. But honestly, at this point, like, I did not want to know why I was feeling this way. You know, I found my identity in my appearance and what other people thought of me. Makeup gave me that confidence. It made me feel like I was important, and I really felt like it gave me favor with other people. So there was absolutely no way that I was gonna give this up. Even though I ignored this conviction, God really kept pressing it on my heart. And a few years later, I went to ministry school, and while I was there, this feeling got stronger. At this point in my life, my identity was more rooted in God, and I truly wanted to live for Him. So there were a few times where I threw out my makeup, I decided not to wear it, and I started researching. I was researching in the Bible and online. I was just trying to figure out what God thought about makeup. While I was researching, I could not find anything that convinced my mind of the way that I was feeling about makeup. So I started to think, well, maybe I'm just being legalistic, maybe I'm just making up this rule in my head, and I just started wearing makeup again. And so for years after this, I continued ignoring this conviction until last year. So last year, I made the decision to start veiling. I will link my head covering testimony in the description. But after I decided to obey God in this way, the conviction to stop wearing makeup just amplified. I remember one day specifically, I was just sitting on my bed and I heard God say in my head, "I am coming after your idols." And honestly, this like really scared me. It like pierced my heart. And deep down, like I knew I was idolizing makeup, but in my head, I completely minimized and justified it. I was like, okay, I'm just making things up in my head. Like, I don't idolize makeup. This is absolutely insane. But I couldn't get away from this feeling. And so I decided, okay, I am just going to go in full-blown like research mode about this. I'm going to find out everything I can about what makeup says in the Bible, about the history of makeup, and I'm just gonna see what I find. I started off by researching all of the Bible verses that mentioned makeup. There are the verses in Ezekiel and Jeremiah where God says that Israel paints her eyes in vain, and the famous verse about Jezebel. There is also the book of Esther. She is taken through a 12-month-long beauty treatment to be prepared for the king, but there's really nothing that specifically says makeup was involved in this treatment. So I couldn't really fit this in with my research. But I was able to find another part of the Bible that mentioned makeup, and that was in the book of Job. Job was a righteous man in the Bible, and it actually says that he named his third daughter after eye makeup. His daughter's name was Karen Happuch, which in Hebrew means horn of antimony. Antimony was a substance that was used for eyeshadow, and it was likely stored in hollowed out animal horns. So that's where her name comes from. After researching all of this, I really just felt like I wasn't finding what I was looking for. Makeup seemed to be more neutral than anything. So I'm like, okay, well, let me just look into the history of it. Here's a fun fact. Makeup has actually always been worn by both men and women. I think this is so funny because makeup is marketed as something that is feminine nowadays, but it really has not been that way for most of history. People believed that makeup protected from various diseases as well as from sun damage, and there are a lot of other reasons why people wore it. In the Talmud, which is the Jewish book of civil and ceremonial law, it actually says that women were permitted to wear makeup. So at this point, nothing I'm finding is backing up what I'm feeling. But this is where things really changed. In the New Testament, I started studying 1 Peter 3, specifically verse 3, where Peter tells women that their beauty should not come from outward adornment. He goes on to list a few things that women were using to elaborately adorn themselves at the time, and I'm not going to get into what he talked about in this video. But I wanted to get a deeper understanding of this verse, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start looking at definitions. So I looked up the English word for adorn, and it means to make more beautiful or attractive. Adornment is the action of making something more beautiful or attractive. So basically, doing something, using something to make yourself look more physically attractive. And after reading these definitions, I got that confirmation I was looking for. I was like, okay, like, this is why I feel this way. But I still wanted to look deeper into it, so I started reading commentaries on this verse, and I found that a lot of commentators actually condemned the use of makeup. I'm gonna go ahead and read a couple commentaries, but there are a lot more. You can Google it and see what commentators in the early church had to say about it as well. So the Ellicott's commentary for English readers says, "We may be sure he would have spoken with abhorrence of any adorning which partook of the nature of lying. Even in one of Xenophon's works there is a charming passage where an Athenian gentleman expostulates with his wife on the folly of hoping to attract him by wearing high-heeled shoes and painting her face with rouge and white." The Jamieson Fawcett Brown Bible Commentary says, "Have the blush of modesty on thy face instead of paint." Ambrose and Cyprian, I don't know if I'm saying their names right, but they were also commentators who condemned the use of makeup. I'm gonna read a quick quote from one of Ambrose's commentaries. "For the woman who desires to alter her natural appearance pronounces condemnation on herself, and her eager endeavors to please another prove that she has first been displeasing to herself." So these commentaries are very bold, to say the least, but I think that the message is very clear here. Makeup was very much looked down upon, to say it lightly. On top of this, I also found an article that stated as Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire, there was a decline in the cosmetics industry due to the church's focus on life of the spirit and also the rejection of earthly and bodily pleasures. So this is what really did it for me. This is just my story. There are a lot of other good reasons to stop wearing makeup as well, which I'm going to talk about in part 2 of this series. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope that it spoke to you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.